Okay, so let me share a little bit about my experience. And then also below the video, I've written some text because I realized that the first time when you're watching the video, I think, watching a video helps because you can better understand my tone and what I'm trying to say. I think it's more personable. But once you watch the whole video, it's hard to navigate through 20 minutes of video or 15 minutes of video to find the exact content. And because it is easier to read text, I'll put some text below the video so that you can reference it, read it. Although, if you have taken my courses, I recommend always watch the video first and then read the text and then use the text later to easily reference things because the videos may have a lot of information and emphasis that may not be included in the text. But again, I'll try to put some text below the video so that if you did watch the video, it will save you some time. Okay, so let me share about my experiences as a manager. And as a lot of you may know, I studied engineering. I didn't study business, I studied engineering. So when it became time for me to start my first company, I had a lot of fear. Well, I never really even worked in any other companies other than some of the part-time jobs that I had. Could I really learn how to become a good manager and also learn how to be a good entrepreneur and build successful organizations? I had a lot of insecurities. I had a lot of doubt. I was extremely shy. English is my second language, so trying to start a company in the US where I have a hard time communicating what's in my head was a big challenge. And I think a lot of the first time managers also may have that insecurities, fear about whether you think you can be a good manager. And I've been there too. I had a lot of doubts. I was very, very scared. So you're not alone if you're feeling that emotions, insecurities, fear about the unknown. But those could be addressed. I'm hoping that by sharing my stories, you will understand a little bit more about what I went through and how that could also be applied for your journey as you learn to become a better manager. So when I started my first company, I was mostly working in small teams and I was trying to do my best to manage people, but it was super, super hard. Later, when I joined a startup called Zerpal, where I was one of the partners there were so much tasks that we needed to get done, and the company was struggling. So that's the time that I decided, you know what, there's so much work to do. We don't have enough people. I did hear about working with people overseas, and I wonder if that is something I can figure out so that I can build a team quickly and together with my team accomplish a lot of the tasks that needed to be done. And I was running out of time because the company was losing a lot of cash every month. And I felt that if I could figure this out in the next few months, it could really help in turning around this company and getting the company where it needed to be. But if I didn't figure it out, then company could potentially, go down, and that would have been another failure in my entrepreneurial life because I failed in two other companies before that. And I didn't want to have another third failure. I was married, I had a kid, and I just didn't want to have a failure. So I really wanted to, see if I can figure that out. Luckily, I think luck was, part of my journey, and I was able to come to a resource, and I got about 5 to 7 people. Later, it expanded to a team of about 20 people who were managing my internet marketing operations for this company. And I think that was kind of a stepping stone where I didn't have a lot of time, but I really didn't want to lose. And the only way I felt to get the company where it needed to be was, okay, well, I need to just learn how to manage because there is just not a way for me to do everything by myself. Now, I think there is a lesson here. When you're managing a small team, and just like what I did too when I was just working on my own company in the beginning and only had a few people to work with, at that point, sometimes if you're working a lot, going extra miles, if you're very proactive, you can kind of fill in the gap of other people. So even if they're not working as hard, even if the team members are not working as hard, even if you're not managing them very tightly, you can still meet the expectations of the clients or the customers because you can make up for the difference. Now, as the organization gets larger, and as you just cannot possibly, by overworking, compensate for lack of performance by the team members, that's the point that I think is really critical where the managers really have to step up. And for me, that was that moment where there was no way, even if I worked 20 hours a day, there's no way I could have done it. I really needed my team to perform. So by organizing a team, I think that kind of triggered me to really step up my game as a manager, where I think, I was more clear telling my team, okay, this is what I need help on. I cannot do this myself. I need you guys, and I need you to do A, B, and C by date A. Before, I think I was very soft as a manager. Oh, why don't you just work on this? Sometimes I didn't give deadlines. Sometimes I didn't follow up because I felt like, I would kind of, hurt their feelings, and I had insecurities about my own performance. I also had a lot of work I needed to do, and how do I find my, time to manage other people? That was kind of my mentality. But when I later really had to lean on my team to have them deliver, it forced me to be clear on my expectations for them, the timeline, and in some ways it made me vulnerable. I felt a little bit vulnerable saying, do you know what? I need your help and I need you to deliver so that we can succeed as a team. So for me, that was a key experience. And after building that team, I felt like I learned how to become a better manager. Now, learning how to be a manager of individual contributors is one thing, and I think it's a good stepping stone. Later, when I had to learn how to be a manager of managers, that also required different skill sets. So that's when I started to learn about Peter Drucker and some of his books, learned about metrics, OPPM, which stands for one page project management, and I'm still learning to this day how to more effectively manager of managers, not to micromanage, how to give them autonomy that people need and still deliver results. But anyway, this course is mostly going to be about how to be a manager of individual contributors rather than how to be a manager of managers. I think that's another level up that may be addressed in some other courses, or maybe you can just read some books about that topic. But if you're managing a group of individual contributors, I think a lot of the lessons here would apply. Even if you are managing a team of managers, I think a lot of these core principles would, still apply. Now, one thing more, and some of this I put below the video. I think fundamentally in the first 5 years of my entrepreneurship, I have really struggled on my perception of what I thought a good manager is and what a bad manager is. For example, previously, I thought managers, what do they do? They don't do that much. I felt like they were driven by money. A lot of them are manipulative. Sometimes they're taking credit of other people's hard work. They're lazy. They don't actually do a lot of the work, but they take a lot of credit. They tell people what to do. They think, they're like the king, and they only care about performance. So I think all that stereotype was really wrong. I didn't really have a right perception of what I thought managers do. Now after being a manager, after striving to be a good manager, my paradigm about what a good manager or what a good manager is has really changed. Instead of driven by money, I think good managers are driven by care. I really think they care about the goals of the company. They care about people, and they also care about performance too. But it is that care that drives them forward, that motivates them to work hard, that motivates them to hold people accountable, and so forth. I also think good managers are kind. They give credit to others. Sometimes they take some credit for themselves because they have a significant part in bringing any performance. But I think good managers also recognize other people's hard work and they are themselves very hardworking. Instead of telling people what to do, I think they do that, and they also seek for inspirations on how to better serve the members of their team. Um, I think, a lot of the good managers are servant-based leaders also, although later in the video, I'll also talk about how I think there is a misconception about um, good managers and good person. They're not necessarily the same thing. So I'll talk a little bit about that. But anyway, over the years, my perception about managers have really, really changed over the years. So again, below the video, I put that kind of comparison of what I thought a manager is before I had that paradigm shift and how I feel a good manager is now. So, one thing that I will say is that in the world, there are many personalities, right? We have extroverts, we have introverts, we have someone who is very outgoing, very shy, someone who's very soft-spoken, very loud, so many different personalities. Now, what I have learned and what I believe is that there's not one personality trait that makes someone a better manager or a better leader. And this really took me a long time. I think it took me years to kind of come into that realization. In my life, for example, when it came to learning how to become a good leader, I thought there are certain personality traits. There is this perfect leader, and they think like this, they behave like this, their personalities are like this. And even when I was a missionary for my church, I thought a perfect missionary needs to behave this way. They would have these personalities and so forth. When I went to Stanford to get my business degree, I thought I want to learn how to be the perfect leader. So I want to learn how leaders think, how they behave, what personalities they have so that I can mold after them. Well, I remember at Stanford, I remember talking to one of my coach about this. And I was talking about I want to be a good executive. I want to be a good entrepreneur. I want to learn how great leaders think, learn about their personalities, how they behave, how they make decisions so that I can become like them. And it was interesting where my mentor basically looked at me a little bit, interestingly, and basically told me, Michael, I think there are all sorts of different leadership there available. And he, in an essence, told me, you already have what it takes to be a great leader. And there are many, many options of being a great leader, not just one. There's not one answer. There are many answers to this. And there is an answer that fits really well with your personality, with who you are as a person. So don't bother joining these organizations or learning about leaders A, B, C, D, because they all will have different personality, different ways of doing things. You have your own personality traits that make you strong. Find your own kind of niche and, be the leader that you can be. And, now it makes sense, but I remember back then that was a shock. And but now I come to believe that that's really true. Personality traits really doesn't have much to do with whether you can be a great manager or a great leader. So what I will say is, if you all have some insecurities about whether you can be a good manager, I've been there. It took me years to kind of overcome that fear. I'll tell you that believe in yourself. Believe that if you genuinely care about the organization, if you genuinely care about the people that you serve, if you genuinely care about delivering results, not excuses, then you will become a good manager. And you will be able to find and keep the personalities that you currently have. That's what makes you you. Keep that, and then add some of these core competencies and skill sets and actions that I'll be introducing, and that will make a very unique, powerful manager that only you can become. Okay? But I really believe there's not one personality trait that makes someone a better manager. You can be soft-spoken. You can be a great, powerful manager. You can be extremely shy and still be a great, phenomenal manager. You can be loud and you can still be a great manager. Personality traits don't have much to do with whether you can be a great manager or not. So I hope some of that tip was helpful, and then you can read the text below the video and proceed with the next.